Hey guys, it's Two Guys in Hockey Talk. I'm Pavel the Cat Sigmund, and I've got my beautiful co-host, now virtually again. Evan, how you doing?
Hey, pretty good, man. Big switch. Evan Reynolds. Was it Revenev? I can't even remember my code. I am so confused, buddy. Spending last week, guys, thanks for watching our pre-recorded episode from Tuesday night in the Moss Pit, which is basically the tailgate party outside of Rogers Place in downtown Edmonton for the Battle of Alberta.
Unofficial name too. We've called it Moss Pit, and it's kind of taken momentum and gained. But
yeah, in honor of, and it was in honor for those that don't know. Yes.
Joey Moss, legendary Joey Moss.
Yeah. So man, it's great. Yes, we're back virtually connecting. That was one of the few times we were together. I got to laugh though. It was really funny if you were watching last week, everyone. By the way, follow us on YouTube and subscribe there as well. Follow, like, share. I can't even remember all the stuff we normally do. It feels like it's
like, subscribe, share, all the things. I think you've just got so much confusion because these playoffs have been nothing but confusing, and I no longer know what rules are. We're going to get into that.
Absolutely.
But make sure, do you have your beverage?
I got my bevy, man. Let's do it.
So this is our playoff edition of Two Guys in Hockey Talks. And as Evan always says, we go into overtime. So cheers.
Cheers.
We're going to get into it. But before we get into the two series that are currently happening.
Hey, we're in episode 37 today for those that are following. I might have got mixed up last week. So don't always pay attention to us because not only do we know absolutely nothing about hockey, apparently, we tell each other, but we know absolutely nothing about counting and math.
I'm going to say that after today's episode, I really know nothing about hockey just because of what's been happening. Now, to
Let's
preface,
do it, man.
I know that the Tampa Bay Lightning versus the Rangers is happening right now, and we don't want to spoil it. So if you guys want to comment below, go ahead. But we're not going to talk about that until a little bit later once the series has gone through a few games. But that's the Eastern Conference Finals. You know, you've got Igor Shesterkin versus Vasilevsky, two great Russian goaltenders. We're going to talk a little bit about the Oilers and the Colorado Avalanche and kind of what was going on yesterday because we got a chance to go see the game at Rogers Place. But first, we're going to talk about how all four of these teams got to these rounds, the Final Four, and what happened to the other teams. So we're going to start in the East here, where the Florida Panthers got completely obliterated by the Tampa Bay Lightning. Initial thoughts on the series, and where do the Panthers go from here, Evan?
Okay, so this is a fun one because, as everyone knows, one of our guests on the show, we connected last night. So hey, Jordan, how you doing, man? I was joking with him, and I mentioned about Tampa Bay, that I predicted them early at the beginning of the season, and he's like, I know. So you guys are probably all feeling the same way, and some people are like, man, you're just a super Tampa Bay Lightning fan. Actually, I'm not, but what I am is I am a fan of hockey who admires a strong team. So I'm not going to tell you that I predicted them to win the Stanley Cup and begin a new dynasty since the New York Islanders, because I've never told you that before. But let's just say I think when it comes to the Florida Panthers, there was a few things going on here. Number one, a lot of Toronto fans, you guys need to go easy on your team. The defending two-time Stanley Cup champions took you out, and it took 7 games. You had the lead. Yeah, they came back. You just need to tweak. Be careful. Now, Florida, I'm going to say the same thing. Be very careful. There's a few tweaks they need. Yes, they're going to lose Giroux unless they can find a way to re-sign him. I don't know if that's going to happen. They picked up a few extras. Like Pavel's already disagreeing. He's not letting me give my opinion here. He's just... but I don't think there's a lot, Pavel, that they need to do. But interesting, last night Jordan and I were talking when we were at the game, and we were just saying, could they really... They got Bobrovsky for a while. They're not letting him go. Could they use Spencer Knight to pull in something they really need? Not just another draft pick, but something solid. And frankly, I don't think the forwards are not the issue. I think defense is still the issue. They really have Ekblad as their number one, but I think that they're struggling in the 2-3 spot. And so could there be a switch or something in there? That's going to be my take on it. What do you see that you think that they should do, or do they stand pat?
Well, first off, everyone now knows why you think I know nothing about hockey, because you'd rather talk to Jordan about it than me. So that's good to know. So thank you, Jordan, for filling in that time.
We were together at that game last night, right?
I guess I'll just play with my thumbs and just sit here and hum and ham. But what I think the problem is that there was some discussion and rumblings about Bobrovsky being moved last year, but it's a big contract, and how do you move that contract? It's tough. The thing that I think the Panthers struggled with was that they had a hard time putting goals up in the series,
Yeah.
as well as, and even the Washington Capitals gave them a run for their money. Power play, their power play was abysmal. And given that they were even trying 5 forwards on that power play, you have Barkov and Huberdeau, you have Giroux, who I really think is going to go maybe to Ottawa or maybe back to Philly. We'll see. Yeah, he's going to, yeah.
This guy knows absolutely nothing about hockey. Nobody goes to
Just
Ottawa
watch,
right now.
and then I can prove you wrong again, but sure.
They got money, man. They got money to burn. They can build that team quick.
You have Anthony Duclair. You had, Sam Bennett, all these elite players that came out and had one of the best. And I think really it came down to the superstars. When you look at a team like Colorado, when you look at a team like St. Louis or Edmonton Oilers or even Tampa Bay, their superstars came to play. For Florida, they kind of disappeared in that series. And that's why I was most shocked about, because I expected a bit more from them. I don't think Bobrovsky played badly, and I think their defense is solid. The one question moving forward is, what are they going to do about their head coaching job? Because Andrew isn't signed full. He's not a full head coach yet. He's an intern. So will that interim sticker be removed? Yeah, he came in after that whole Joe Quenneville situation. And so, who's their main head coach?
Okay, I don't know if I've really heard you say what they need to do, because I've heard you say that they're solid defense. Goaltending was good. You don't think it's their fault. They're deep. They had elite. They didn't show up. So what are they supposed to do then?
I just said their superstars need to show up. Their superstars did not show up in the playoffs.
So that doesn't sound like a practical. That's not measurable, though, man. How are they going to fix that team? Do you say
how's that not practical?
They superstars show up?
Well, your best players have to be your best players and score in the playoffs.
But how do you make them
point.
be your best players? I mean, if they didn't show up this year, they're just going to show up next year?
Yeah, you see that with Edmonton. You see that with Toronto. I mean, look at Mitch Marner. He struggled to score in a while. I think you're just arguing just to argue for the argument's sake.
Okay, you know what? I was going to bring a point out actually to it, and you are right. It sounds like that. But actually, it does come to a point, because as Pavel's telling you guys that, I was going to say before that series started, and I joked about it, and I know Joe's on our show. She comes, checks out. Big Florida Panther fan and season ticket holder. Woo! Rock out there, Joe. Be patient with your team. But when I talked about experience, that's what I think. So those superstars, experience, and you talked about that, like Connor McDavid, right? People have been talking about how he doesn't show up. I mean, he actually points-wise. Defensively, he was good last year. The year before, he struggled on the defensive side. But this year, there is experience. That's one thing. We can talk about that later in the other series with the Oilers. But I think that you see that, and including Toronto, I think with what they've gone through these last 2 years, look out next year for a team like Toronto. Because experience in the playoffs and losing, even first round, will help teams in the future. So I really
100%.
think that that's what you're saying.
Yeah, and you also alluded to it a few episodes back. Well, I have to agree with you sometimes. You alluded to it, is that this is the first time since 1996 that the Florida Panthers got out of the first round. So good accomplishment. Toronto, take notes. No shade. But just so you know, like, you got to get at least out of the first round to get that experience, right? I mean, there's always an elevated level to the game. And I'm going to say this right now, because I know I've heard a lot of rumblings how, oh, well, the Rangers are there by a fluke or by luck, or Edmonton Oilers, they're terrible. They're not that good. And it's only Tampa and Colorado. There are 32 teams in the NHL. These are the 4 left competing for, for the Stanley Cup. You don't get to this point by being lucky or just okay or just good goaltending. You got to put up points. You got to play defensively. You got to block shots. You got to do all the things. You got to play a system. And you win some, you lose some. But there's another 8 teams that were eliminated. So here we are. Now, to take over to the next series,
otherwise we'll never get through this show. We're 10 minutes in.
We never will. We've got the Carolina Hurricanes, who have now been eliminated to the Rangers, which I didn't expect to do. But, I expected Carolina to put up a fight, but I didn't expect the Rangers to come back as strong as they did. So what went wrong in this series for the Carolina Hurricanes, and what's next for them?
Okay, the Carolina Hurricanes. So I'm going to go back to my original thing when we talked about even playing if they were potentially against the Penguins. Remember, I talked about how tough they are, how like big and tough. And I felt they got manhandled a lot of like they do stuff in spurts. So they can get hitting and they do things in spurts. I think the number one reason their goaltending fell apart and they lost out. That was just unfortunate. They would have been in the next round had Freddie been healthy the whole postseason. I really believe that. But again, that's a part of hockey. You got to be able to deal with injuries in your team. So if you've had a team that's out, there's a lot of
Braden Point for the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Absolutely. And so, and a superstar player that they still can win without. So you got to find a way to win without. So I'm going to say goaltending first of all, but second of all, I still think and I'm not going back and trying to go over all this Ethan Bear, Warren Foegele, but Warren Foegele is what they need. Now, he doesn't have to be top six. They're fine there. They need the guys that are tough and fast to be able to do the hitting, to be able to check, play defense, gritty. No, they need gritty from the Philadelphia Flyers mascot. That's what they need. But that's my opinion. I think that they're right there on the edge. They got the defense. They have depth. They have all those things. Again, you can't just blame goaltending. Last year, people had no problem with Mrazek, right? You know, it was all great. And anyway, bottom line is to me, they got to get tougher. They're going to have to make a couple replacements, I think, in their bottom six next year just to give that depth for playoff hockey. They are a regular season team. They're not built for playoffs. That's my take on it. Where are you going on Carolina?
The Hurricanes? Okay, well, so first off, they need to win on the road. They can't not win on the road. I don't know how many teams go 0-6 on the road. Like, that's abysmal, right? They seem to win at home, which worked for them in Boston because they had home ice advantage. And they were winning at the beginning at home versus the Rangers until Game 7. So really, I mean, all you have to do is close it out. Goaltending, I agree. The other thing is, where is their elite scoring coming from? Sebastian Aho was solid, but what about Svechnikov? He is supposed to be a superstar in this league. He wasn't very good. He seemed a little bit off. You know, Vincent Trocheck, he's got a contract coming up because he's going to UFA. Like, is he going to stick around or is he going to go there? Seth Jarvis was an excellent surprise, and I think people missed out on that. Hint, hint, again, Toronto, you gave that up for that Patrick Marleau contract. So I'm throwing shade at Toronto today all day. I love it. But really, at the end of the day, where's your goal scoring from? And here's my wild prediction for next year. Vladimir Tarasenko goes to Carolina Hurricanes. Just throwing it out there.
Can I just kick something in here? You started off with Carolina, and I don't know if you guys all heard my colleague here, my co-host, Pavel the Cat. In his assessment, he's like, they were no-shows, they're superstars, like Sebastian Aho, and I'm like...
No, I said he was solid, but he wasn't good enough. But
we're trying to say, what do they have to do in the off season? And all I'm hearing you mention is, well, their superstars got to be superstars. Basically, they got to be better in the playoffs. And anyway, I was just laughing because it's stuff that it's not tangible. So really, you don't think they need to do anything? They just need to get those players better in the playoffs.
I mean, you need a healthy goaltender tandem. I mean, I liked Ranta. I think he really helped them. But the problem with Anderson being out, that really hurt them. And
Anderson's always hurt, though. Hey,
but not for those. He was, but he was also good for this full season almost until the last, I think 3 weeks before he got injured.
But the history now at his age, dating back to Toronto and stuff, since his Anaheim days, he's still. There's always times it's just like he's taken out. And you said they need healthy, but how do you? I guess if I'm the Carolina Hurricanes.
So what I think they need to do is Rob Brind'Amour is an elite, excellent coach, but I think he needs to open up the game a little bit to not play as defensively as that team plays. And I know that defense wins championships, but clearly they were clogged up. They were first, I think, in goals against this year, or least amount of goals against.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
But then that system doesn't allow, and it's similar to the Islanders with Trotz, where your superstars like a Matthew Barzal, he's going to get 60, 70 points, but he's a 100-point player, or 90 to 100. He can put up points. Same thing with Svechnikov, Aho, Nina Ryder, maybe not up there, but, he could be in the 50s, 60s, up to 70s. Vincent Trocheck's a solid guy. I think their back end is pretty solid. We'll see what happens with Tony DeAngelo. Will they re-sign him? Will Ethan Bear stay because he's been healthy scratch? He didn't play any of the playoff games. Ian Cole was a good presence back there. Brent Pesce, of course, very underrated defensive defenseman. But I mean, really, what else can you say about that team? Like, they make the playoffs. They've made it 4 years in a row. They clearly can do it, and they usually get to the second round.
So they got experience behind them of playing in the playoffs, not going deep.
Yeah.
Well, they've gone fairly deep. So, practically, you got 30 seconds. Practically, what do the Hurricanes do to get to the Final Four next year?
Get a guy who scores an easy goal, like a Vladimir Tarasenko.
Okay. So
I wonder if they're also thinking about what happened with Dougie Hamilton, because he added some offensive prowess to that team, and he is missing on that backhand. Not defensively.
But they had Tony DeAngelo on that part, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move over.
Since I was talking about the Blues a little bit, let's talk about the Blues and Colorado Avalanche. So what went wrong for the St. Louis Blues, and what do they go from here?
Singing the blues, singing. Okay, guys, I'm going to stay away from singing because that's making you really blue right now.
If someone can auto-tune you and make you into a TikTok, that's what the kids are doing these days.
You know what was funny? So, and we'll get to this in a minute. So last week's podcast, when I was trying to come out on Tuesday night and I was putting it up on our page for you guys, I went to talk about Jordan Binnington. No idea. Everyone's screaming behind me. And I wanted to talk to you about the issue with Nazem Kadri and some of the stuff that had happened and getting hit. And I have no idea. I went right to Jordan Binnington's girlfriend peeing in the Stanley Cup. So I gave you a tidbit of information. The guy started talking, and I forgot everything I was going to talk about Jordan Binnington. So, it was really good to see him make some changes to his game for the playoffs. Excellent. Oh, man, I don't even know where to go with St. Louis because I feel like they're trying to build the exact same team that took them there previously. Everything was going well for them. But all I could say is I feel like this is a Toronto, again, we keep throwing this back at you, Toronto, so we're still talking about you. That should be good. But a Toronto-Tampa situation because they came up against the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, you're taking on the bloody Colorado Avalanche. They got defense, they got offense, they got goaltending, they got special teams. They got home ice advantage as well. That can make a big difference. And so I just think they ran up against a superior team. But I've always felt that St. Louis still needs the superstar. If this was Tarasenko, say 7-8 years ago, I think it would be different in the playoffs. But I think they need to make a change somehow. And I'm going to say the same thing that you said about, was it Carolina, that they need, what was it? No, you didn't say they need. Yeah, they need someone to score, right? You need to have that one-shot guy.
The easy goal.
Easy goal. That's what. I love that terminology. Thank you. So anyway, they need that easy goal. Tarasenko was that before. He gets them, but he's not going to be that same guy anymore. And obviously, he's going to Carolina now. You just said so. They're going to have to replace.
I don't know. I'm making a bold prediction, but you guys can tell me how wrong I am.
That's good. That's good. So, what else do you think that they can do? Is there anything? What's your take on?
Binnington being injured was big. They're definitely going to have to make a decision on Ville Husso. Is he going to leave? Is he going to stay? David Perron was kind of their guy who's scoring, although not in bunches. Ryan O'Reilly played very well, like Selke, like two-way forward, 200-foot player, really was able to help minimize the damage that, that offense Colorado has. So that was good. But again, like I was expecting more from, a Jordan Kyrou, a Robert Thomas, right? And definitely, I think because they had a lot of injuries on the blue line, that hurts St. Louis. And I wonder now what that's going to look like in the future. Torrey Krug was out, so that made an impact, and again, we talked about it, and this day, I think it's very true. I think Justin Falk had one of his best seasons as a defenseman, especially watching him, how he played previously and even in Carolina. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Will David Perron resign? The Blues are going to be competitive, definitely be in the playoffs next year. They usually make it. I think it's only been 1 year in the last decade that they haven't made it. And it wasn't like they lost them. They were probably out a few points. But again, so they've been consistently getting to the playoffs, second round. But they seem to lose. I think the record is 6. They usually lose in 6, whether in the first or second round. So we'll see how it goes. I think the one thing the Blues could definitely look at is an offensive defenseman that puts up a bit more points. I don't know if that's Torrey Krug, or maybe you look out in the market for someone like a John Klingberg. I mean, they may not want to pay him that, but again, it's I'm just saying that could be something that takes place. And I don't think St. Louis has too much tinkering to do, because I think they did a very good job overall, and they're usually pretty competitive. And that experience helped them get back in a few situations where they were able to keep up. But again, Colorado just overpowered them. And yeah.
Well, and interesting though, they like next year, so they got Bozic, David Perron, Nick Leddy, that are all UFAs, and
Leddy was a good trade. It was a good pickup in the trade deadline.
So exactly.
Bozak's not going to be more than $750. Like, paying $1 million for Bozak for your fourth line center is a lot. I know he's the championship, but he's at the end of his
$1 million's not. It's only like 200,000 over the minimum base, or 250,000. Minimum's what, $750, right? So I mean, $250,000, a little extra to have a good veteran on your fourth line if you're going to be a deep team.
It's goaltending. Who's your backup next year? Because if Binnington comes back, it's good. Now, we do want to premise on this show that all the comments that were sent towards Kadri and his wife were inappropriate, wrong, and just ridiculous. Not called for. You may not like Kadri's play on the ice. You may question his hit on Binnington, whether it was intentional or not. And he has had a history of suspensions and playing to the edge. A Tom Wilson and Brad Marchand style. He's been suspended. That is true. But to make such awful comments to him and his wife, to the fact where the police and the FBI have to get involved and sit outside his home, we don't tolerate that. That's just pathetic. And guys, hockey's supposed to be fun and entertaining and engaging, and a lot of dialogue for whether this is good or not. Like, we're going to talk a little later, but none of that. So we condone those actions, and we applaud Kadri for sticking up for his values and then getting a hat trick the next game. So bravo.
Well, they're going to have about $6 million cap next year to be able to work with, but they're going to have to replace those guys that we talked about. So they're going to be tight up against it. So in order to unload, if Tarasenko goes or something like that, they can trade him out. I mean, that could be a possibility, right? So why don't we go to the place where we were last week? Start us off. Why don't you take it? Calgary lost in the Battle of Alberta in 5 games. Why don't you start us off? What can you say to Calgary fans? Where should we go? What happens now?
I mean, Calgary has some big decisions to make, predominantly with Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey, and with Matthew Tkachuk. Even though he's an RFA, he's got one more year. And they've got a few other guys on the side. Oliver Shillington is a big one. I think Trevor Lewis is another one. The biggest thing, I think, is what went wrong with Markstrom. We understand that Chris Tanev was injured, but Markstrom was not the best night goalie that I expected him to be. And Edmonton made him look like Swiss cheese. And we thought that maybe there'd be some nagging injury, but I think it was just tiredness, because he played well against the Dallas Stars. And Ottinger played unreal. It was his coming out party, but he still competed. Dallas couldn't really score. But I think it starts in net. I think you see what happens there. I think Brad Treliving has a lot of signings to do, so they may be a little bit in cap hell, because they have a lot of guys to re-sign. And I honestly think Johnny Gaudreau is gone. I don't think he's sticking around. He had that big game in Game 7 where he scored that game-winning goal, but really he didn't show up apart from Game 1 in the Edmonton series. Their top line, Lidholm, Tkachuk, and Gaudreau, just kind of disappeared. Now, having Tanev injured on the back end did hurt them, and I think that is something that they tried to replace, but they just couldn't get back at Edmonton's speed and consistent consistent attack, like cyclical attack consistently. And so Calgary fans, don't blow it up. Don't get crazy. You still made it to the second round, but you need, I don't know if it's a mentality. It's similar to Toronto, where it's a mentality thing between the ears, where you just have to beat those demons in your head, because I feel like that's what got to them the most, because they were the favorite. They were the better team, but for whatever reason, and again, 9-6 Game 1, right? That's a lot of goals. And they were up 2-0 in the first game and Game 5. You can't drop those kind of leads, right?
Up. So this is what's interesting. So if you're a Calgary fan, you're sitting here going, well, what's going to happen? Like, Eric Francis has gone out there and he's given a lot of information talks about they could possibly keep one, but not both, Tkachuk and Gaudreau.
Well, he
And
signed for 1 more year, so
yeah, well, Tkachuk is so here's the thing. So Tkachuk, yes,
RFA.
yeah, but so here's the thing that we got to talk about when it comes to the situation with Tkachuk is there's a lot of rumors out there whether he wants to get into St. Louis. So let me just throw some crazy stuff out there. You don't want to blow it up, but you're already going to blow it up because you got a guy who's going to be an RFA. So there's a qualifying offer you can put in. Plus you have Johnny Gaudreau, who's a UFA. You got to figure this out. Can you keep them both? Mangiapane is now coming up, and so needs to be signed if you're going to keep him. And all this stuff. So let's talk about this. First of all, I think Calgary, you need to relax. You need to know this, that you need to trust the system within the team. They were not expected to be first in their division this year in the regular season. It is a regular season. So just like the previous year, you weren't in the playoffs for a couple years, right? That's very important. So let's go back and let's look at Edmonton. They were in the playoffs the last 2 years, play-in and playoffs, whatever you want to call it. They learned hard lessons. They should have got out of that first round last year from Winnipeg. 3 overtimes and 4 straight sweep. Didn't make sense. You're looking at Edmonton this year and you're saying, this didn't make sense, getting taken out in 5 games. It did not feel like 5 games, believe me, to Oilers fans. It did not feel like that to anybody, including ESPN. You should be proud of your team. They actually brought in a lot of viewership, that, especially for those of you guys in United States of America, other places of the world that have been tuning in. I'm sure you can even comment in your section. You can say, hey, man, the Battle of Alberta was exciting. And when I say that, yeah, like even Kevin Weeks talking. So I remember Oiler fans when Kevin Weeks, after game 1, 9-6 victory, he's just like, hey, the Battle of Alberta is so exciting. Everyone wants to watch it. Oiler fans are like, no, it's not. We lost. Well, guess what? Now it got switched. Now Edmonton's blowing away Calgary and coming up with the high scores. And they're still, this is exciting to watch from people who were not cheering for either team. It was exciting hockey just to enjoy because it was different. It had mistakes. It had, like you can say, the Canadian junior hockey every Boxing Day, right? You know, when it starts. And so all those things, even the crazy calls like the Coleman goal and all that stuff.
So what is your thought on that? Is it a goal or no goal?
It's no goal, and I called it no goal instantly. I have a different take. It's not because, you know, I live in Edmonton. Literally, I looked over to my wife and I said, that's not a goal. To me, I saw a kicking motion. He was purposely, and this was before Coleman gave any indication, he purposely redirected. He thought it wasn't a kick, but it was a redirect with the skate in the way. He purposely moved his left leg, which could have caused harm, to himself to purposely in motion to redirect it. So I saw it. Kelly Rudy's on there saying, well, I don't know, is it an offside? No, it wasn't an offside, dude. I saw him kick it in. So, but I get it, man. If you're a Flames fan and you're sitting there going, we got robbed, Edmonton knows how you feel in 2017 when the pads were pulled apart by on Cam Talbot and they allowed the goal. It's like, what? How could they allow the goal? Same thing. Every team goes through this. Hockey karma, hockey gods, however you guys like to call it, it will come back and they're going to get something in their favor. We can talk about last night. I mean, the Oilers got robbed the opposite way, right? From my perspective. So it does happen. But anyway, I want to come back to this. This is why I think Johnny Gaudreau's not going. And I could be totally wrong because I know absolutely nothing about hockey, Pavel said. But listen to this. Does Gaudreau want to go where he makes the money? Or does he still want a chance to win? I know we can say he's not showing up in the playoffs. People said that about Connor McDavid. People said that about Austin Matthews. There's Mitch Marner. You name it, right? And so I think this is what I think. I think Gaudreau, he likes it in Calgary. He's got a good relationship there. I actually think they can re-sign him. Some of you thinking he's going to make $8-9 million. I want you to remember, he is turning 29. He's going to be 29 soon. And so with that, Pavel's going to totally disagree with me, but I think that you're looking, he's going to want a long-term deal. If he can get a long-term, he'll stay, and he'll lower that term down. So for them to win, I expect him to sign a 7 or an 8-year deal in Calgary, and we're talking about 7.5 to 7.75, because you're not going to get that deal of 7-8 million unless you go, here's it is, to a losing team. You can go to Philly. You're not winning anytime in the net. And by the time 5 years are up, that team, maybe they're ready to compete and win something in 4 years. Gaudreau is not going to be a point-per-game player. He's too small. He's needs to be protected. He's not a Martin St. Louis. I'm sorry. Different player. He doesn't have the physical ability. I think that he signs there. You can call me wrong, and that's first line because I know you are right now. But Matthew Tkachuk, I think, is potentially for a trade, and I do see him going to St. Louis. I'm putting it out there now like my Tampa Bay stuff. I see him going to St. Louis, and St. Louis moving Tarasenko out and bringing in at $9 million, and then putting him in to an 8-year deal somehow and signing him long-term as their new scorer. That's what I got for you guys. Mangiapane resigns. Oh, can I just say this? What are media pundits talking about? I know I'm on a rant now, man. Markstrom.
This is your rant. We get one per show.
Markstrom. Listen, you can't call him a Civ goalie that he's no good, but yet he's a Vezina nominee. I mean, just because the Oilers lit him up game after game, right now, Darcy Kemper got lit up by the Oilers last night too. Listen, when you have top
it was Kemper, and then he went out with an injury, and then Francois let in 3 goals.
But Kemper in 12 shots, he's let 3 goals in, right? I mean, so if you got to stop and look at the people that are scoring and the talent and the skill, it's just not nobody scoring on you. And they're elite. They're elite. They're franchise players, generational players. And so this is what
I think you mean one guy.
Your rant.
I'm just throwing in my bits.
Yeah,
I think you mean one guy is scoring. For
one guy. Yeah, one guy, meaning one team. So anyway, Markstrom is fine. Listen, everybody goes through something. This is a hard lesson for him just as well, figuring a few things out. I think he was overworked in the season. They need to give him probably 10, 15 games less. Don't make him go so hard. I don't have any concerns about Markstrom moving forward, but I had felt this. I never said it because I wanted to be nice to you Flame fans. But listen, guys, Edmonton was all wrong for you, and that's the only team, them in Colorado, to me, were all wrong for the Calgary Flames. Every other team. And it's because the way they play the game, once you break through, you got fast offensive talent, they're not going to be able to contain it. And they're going to have to make a change somehow that way. My rant's done.
Rant done. Thank you. Comment below what you think. I'm not going to lie. I enjoy the Battle of Alberta because it had everything. It had controversy, it had high scoring, it had battles, it had trash talk, it had some big hits. It was exciting, and you're going to interrupt me, so go ahead.
Okay, switch it, though. Would you have enjoyed the Battle of Alberta if you won 9-6 and then you lost 4 straight?
No, but I don't cheer for a team that loses, so.
Oh, we got our homer out tonight. See, that's the problem.
Listen, the bragging rights that Edmonton now has for the next year until the playoffs, Edmonton is never going to let Calgary live that down. It doesn't matter what happens from now on. Until the next Battle of Alberta happens in the playoffs, even in the regular season, they can beat us, 10-2. It doesn't matter. We beat the season series. We are the superior NHL team in Alberta. Just saying.
And that's what makes it the Battle of Alberta. Yeah. It's because it's fans also.
We still got a Canadian team going to the Final Four, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Long story short, I think Calgary. I disagree with you. I think Tkachuk stays. He becomes their new captain. Oh. But I really think Johnny Gaudreau is gone. Maybe not Philly. Maybe New Jersey. And I'm going to correct you on one thing. You say it takes a while for some of these teams to turn it around, or it takes a while for these teams to get back to the playoffs.
I was talking Philadelphia, yep. And
sure,
Philadelphia,
but
New Jersey.
Let's say he goes to New Jersey Devils maybe or something. Like, he can still go to there. New Jersey likes to blow money on big players, right?
Yeah,
it does happen. And they have the cap space. And Subban's up this year. They picked up Double G Hamilton. They have Jack Hughes. And he's an elite, he had a 100-point season, Johnny Gaudreau.
Yeah.
Teams change in an instant. You look at the Rangers; they're now in the Final Four.
The Rangers have been building for 3 years, man. They've been building. Jim, you let us know. What do you think, man?
And yet they fired their GM in between. So you got to give their previous GM some credit for what he did. Now you look at LA. LA's rebuild was quick because Drew Doughty and Anze Kopitar said, "I don't want to be a part of a rebuild," and they're quickly competing.
Okay, so this is my disagreement with you here. What do you mean it's quick? LA's not there, man. They're still rebuilding. New
Making the
Jersey's still
playoffs
there.
is a big
So
deal.
LA
and
is
taking
not
the
getting
team
by
to 7
Colorado.
games.
LA is not getting by St. Louis. They're not getting by Edmonton. There's like 4 or 5 teams that they're not getting by for the next 2-3 years. New
Hold on.
Jersey and Philadelphia. Where
Hold
the
on.
heck are they getting? They're not getting by Tampa and Florida and Carolina.
What's
Or
the
Toronto.
first thing about success in any NHL team? It's
I
to
don't
make
know.
the playoffs, right?
That's success?
Yes or no? Is that success? Yes, it is. How many teams are there in the playoffs?
Yeah, only 50% of the teams make the playoffs.
There you go. That's a big marker of success, right? So we start there. Then, depending on your level of build of what you are as a team, are you a contender like a Colorado, like a Tampa? There's a few other teams in there,
Okay.
but like really, or are you in the mix like an Edmonton Oilers, like a Pittsburgh Penguins, like a St. Louis?
Okay, but 5
Or-
years is all Johnny's got. 5 years. So you think New Jersey's going to be able to rebuild, or Philly's going to be able to rebuild in 5 years and beat all those
Yeah.
teams that
Yeah.
have a window right now of 2 to 3 years minimum?
Yeah, because those teams drop off too.
Yeah,
Teams
and he'll be
drop
dropping off by then. So,
Oh boy.
all right, man, we got to
And
move on.
If you think he's going to get 7 to 8 million, that deal would have been done by now. He wants 9 to 10. He wants Panarin money. He
No.
wants Marner
That
money.
only goes for an 8-year contract, 7-8-year contract at that time. And that term takes him till, listen to this, that takes him to 35, 36. So you're paying $7 and $7.75 to $8 million for a guy for 3 years between 33, 34 years old up. That's a
It's a
tiny
business.
guy. That's a skill player that plays on the outside and is not proven himself in the playoffs. Yeah, there's a reason that you don't make that kind of money. You're going to have to have proven it, and he hasn't been able to.
Why did Marner sign what he did?
Why did Marner sign it? Because
Yeah.
he was young. He was
So-
young. Yeah.
So
but
he's not proven in the playoffs.
oh my God! How can you even make an argument between a player who is young in his early years and a player who's old? My point is, the old guy is not going to get paid because it's going to be a waste of the later years of the contract. Marner has a lifetime of skill to play right now. He's young.
Do you think Kirill Kaprizov is better than Johnny Gaudreau?
Yes.
Okay. And what did Kirill Kaprizov get? 5 years by 9.5.
He's younger than him.
He's 24. Yeah.
Yeah, he's 4 years younger than Gaudreau, and look where he is and what he's even able to do in the playoffs.
What did he do in the playoffs? Did Minnesota get eliminated in the first round? Everyone predicted here on the show that they're
Okay,
going to go
it's
to
a
the Stanley
team.
Cup final. Yeah.
It's a team.
Now
Yeah.
it's your picking and
Oh,
choosing.
well, what do you mean? I didn't pick Minnesota to do nothing, man.
I'm not saying you. I said people on the show, but I'm saying you are talking about playoff performance.
You're
Did you
just
not?
ripping
Did
the
you not
people
say
who came
playoff
on our
performance?
show last week. You
Oh
were
my
ripping the, oh my
goodness.
God. Okay, guys.
We got
Anyone
a- we
that was
got
a
a
guest on our
revisionist
show, rip it
historian
for the
here.
bearded man.
We got a revisionist historian on the show here now.
Oh, man. This
You
is so
said
fun.
okay. Long story short, players that want to get paid, they're going to get paid.
Yeah.
I'm looking at players like that who are wingers.
Yeah.
You look at Brad Marchand. I mean, Brad Marchand's a little older. He's got one more year left. He took a smaller deal because it was less cap that year. I'm looking at an Artemi Panarin or Panarin or however you want to pronounce it.
I've
You
never
guys can
drink.
correct- He got a big sum to play in the big city to leave Columbus. That was
Yeah.
the whole thing, and he's performing. He's been okay. He's had a better series in the versus Carolina than he did in
Yeah.
what's it called? But he still scored the game-winning goal in the Game 7 versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. You look at somebody like Brian Rust, who just signed in Pittsburgh, which I thought was a very solid deal because he wanted to stay there. He's a great player. Top 6 guy, can really play in all different positions. I really think Johnny's going to attract a lot of money for the talent that he does.
So you
Because
think he's
there's
going
one
after
thing-
money over a chance to win the cup
Yes.
early? Okay.
Yes.
That's the difference. I think he wants to win, and he's willing to stay in the same spot to do it. That's, I guess, the difference.
Well, we will see who is wrong. And
Yeah.
by wrong, I mean you. So, final thing. We've talked about all the series. We've got the
That's it,
Edmonton
man.
and Colorado series. What are your thoughts on game 1?
Oh yeah, next week we'll start getting into the New York series too, guys. Wow, can I say wow? Everyone talked about this be a slobber knocker. And I actually on my Twitter feed, so you can follow me at RevanAv on Twitter if you like. You can follow me because I talk all things hockey. I have a great time. Or you can go on Instagram and follow at Color Avenue, Color_Avenue. Is it no Color Avenue?
Yes, Color Avenue.
Right.
You just disagree with everybody on Twitter. That's all you do. You just poke the bear.
Yeah, clickbait, eh? But anyway, you can follow and find everything out about cats, and you can just find out random thoughts from Pavel here, man. He's got some cool stuff, but you know what? He's great at taking pictures. He may know absolutely nothing about hockey, but he's got some really good pictures up there. Anyway, so I digress. What was I actually talking about before I began?
About the game. You said it was wow. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember now. So I was saying it's the battle of the East and the West. In the East, you have the goalies. That's what I'm saying. It's just you got two Vasilevsky and Stinking. Okay, I'm sorry, Ranger fans. I just love it.
Terrible joke.
I'm sure. I just the guys. He should easily win, hands down, above Vasilevsky to me, the Vezina this year. By the way. So anyway, these goalies are going to be the difference. Whichever goalie plays better, I think wins this series.
And Hart.
Yeah,
I'm throwing it out there. He was my heart vote.
He's your heart vote, yeah, and your heart is with him. And then in the West, really, you have the battle of the giants, the Micmac, right? McDavid and McKinnon, and with all the other guys. With I don't even need to go in. It's literally high scoring versus low scoring is what my expectation overall. And last night was no different. I mean, my heart's up and down. I'm an Edmonton fan, and I'm sitting here going, oh, we're out. Oh, we're close. Oh, we're closer. We're closer. Oh, what a stupid call. Can I just say this? I hate some of this reffing. I hate some of these calls. They make me mad. It took me back to 2017. But just last series, I was all happy because they didn't call a goal. See, this is what fandom is about. This is why I think we have refs. I don't like the fact, I still think the ref with offsides should be called on the ice, and this is my belief. My belief is if you are going to call offsides at all, and it wasn't called originally, the review must be in live time. No slowing the puck down. If you still agree to that from Edmonton, from Toronto, and they're still saying it's just it's a goal, it's not a goal, and it's allowed or disallowed. But it should be in live time because it's not really fair. They're trying to make it so detailed that they're hurting themselves. So, but this is a part of loving and hating hockey. It's not just about the players. It's about the refs. It's about the reviews. It's about the score clock. Is the size of nets. I mean, it's so much, man. And that's what made it exhilarating. And last night was no different, right? We're sitting there last night. I mean, you guys just go back and think of that score. 8-6. We have not
7-6 technically because an empty net. So
yeah, but overall, you're getting to see another goal scored. So when you get the empty net, and you're a Colorado Avalanche. If you're an Edmonton Oiler, you get the net. It's still exciting, right? The empty net means you've sealed the deal. My bottom line is we have not saw this kind of scoring. Now, I'm going to primarily say from Edmonton, anyone Edmonton plays, everyone just throwing out the defense books, and they're just saying, pond hockey, baby, pond hockey.
What is defense?
Like, I don't even get it. I can't imagine what like what's Woodcroft thinking right now, right? Like
Dave Manson thinking.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. It must be so hard. I really don't get it. I know there's lots of mistakes and stuff, but every game, and maybe it's the way Edmonton plays, that they take people out of their game, trying to compensate for the pressure up front. But all I can say is, in my opinion, Edmonton needs to win the second game. If they don't win that second game, there's no way they're going to win. I just can't see them winning for the next 5 games. It's just not. I don't see it possible against a powerhouse like Colorado.
Everyone here, do you see that Evan's not a non-believer? He doesn't even believe in Edmonton. What a pretend homer.
So anyway, it's been an avalanche.
It's
been an avalanche, right?
I think they're going to the Stanley Cup final. I would like to see the Rangers versus Edmonton. I think that would be super wild because nobody expected these two teams to be in the Final Four, because we all expect Colorado to be playing Tampa Bay, which would still be an entertaining thing. Now, what hasn't been said already about the offside? The one thing I have I have to admit to you, Evan, is that you really do know me. I do know nothing about hockey because I keep learning the rules every single time.
Yeah.
First in the previous season, and now in this series, and there's always something new. Now, the one thing that I will say, and I was listening to Nick Kyprios and Justin Bourne today, is that everybody in hindsight, all of a sudden, all these analysts and all these people knew that it was an onside goal. Nobody knew that. Nobody knew that on the ice when it was happening. And even Ron McLean trying to explain it, and Elliot Friedman trying to explain it. And again, no hateful texts or Twitter hashtags or whatever, or DMs. Just, you don't agree with the call, that's fine. It happens. The hockey gods decided that was it. Now, I have a question with the wording as they talked about it, possession versus control or control, like all those kind of words, because those are interpretive. What you think is control is different than what I think is control. Long story short, Edmonton came out and kind of pooped the bed. They didn't play their best, and they let in 8 goals, which they could, when you score 6 goals, as they talked about in the last game 1 versus Calgary, you score 6 goals, that should be enough to win a hockey game. So defensively, they need to tighten up. Is Nurse injured? It looks like it.
We know,
but of course, Colorado's dealing with the same thing. You've got Samuel Girard out. Yeah. Bowen Byram, I got to give him credit. He's played very well. Absolutely. He's no Cale Makar, but he is still playing at an elite level, and I like what I'm seeing out of him. And really, we had different scores for both teams. I like that. Finally, Edmonton's bottom line, their fourth line scored. Derek Ryan, Zach Kassian, and Josh Archibald, very good. Will we see Dylan Holloway maybe play one of the games? It'll be interesting to see. Or name a line in and then bring in Russell, And then as for Colorado, I think their goaltending is a little bit sus because Darcy Kemper left the game with an upper body injury. Pavel Francois, the best name in hockey, Pavel, amazing. But the guy, he filled in, even though he let in 3 goals, he kind of stabilized things and, he made sure that nothing else got past him. He still got scored on, but it's going to be an exciting series. If anybody's telling me that it's in 4 or 5 either team is joking, this is going at least to 6, so regardless of what happens.
So, this is what's interesting. I just found out, I just hear different people when I see it, especially on Twitter. It's interesting when they're talking, they're just saying, okay, like I heard a lot of people saying that the Avalanche are a much better team. Do you think that Avalanche are thinking they really won 7-6? They're feeling good about this when they let in 6 goals.
No.
They were no better than the Oilers.
No.
They had good possession, and they were hustling to the puck for the first period. To me, it was a saw-off periods 2 and 3, and period 1 was all Avalanche, really,
yes.
During that period of time. So, okay, so here's a quick question before we go, and we've only got like 2-3 minutes left here.
Okay.
We want to quickly tap in on the other one. Do you start Smith or do you go back to Koskinen and only let 1 goal in 21 shots?
Smith. Koskinen looks shaky, and Smith's your guy, and he's gotten you.
He looks shaky. He let 1 goal in 21.
Yeah, I know, but if you look at some of the other shots he almost let in, a couple of them bounced off him. Yeah. He didn't know what it was. He seemed kind of out of place a little bit. Yeah. And I think Colorado put off the pedal, but Smith's your guy, and I start Smith. That being said, game 3, regardless of the result, I play Koskinen.
Even if Smith gets a shutout?
Well, if he gets a shutout, yeah.
So I don't know how Smith doesn't look shaky. 5 goals in like 21 shots himself. It's ridiculous. Okay, let's quickly move over.
He doesn't like game 1s.
So I don't even have time. You guys know how I feel about Tampa Bay. Tell me your thoughts. What's going to make the difference in this series besides the goaltending? What should people be looking for in this series now between the Lightning and the Rangers?
Watch out for Chris Kreider on the New York Rangers because he is a beast and he knows how to score an easy goal. He's that guy, and watch for Jacob Trouba to make a big hit on one of the Tampa Bay players, if not a big scrum between him, Corey Perry, or Pat Maroon. Watch him because Jacob Trouba has some big hits. And that's another thing people aren't talking about is whether those hits are questionable or if they're illegal or wrong because they've been to the head of a few people. Crosby was one of them. Jarvis was another one in the Carolina series. Watch out for him. For Tampa Bay, play your system, play your thing, and be careful for injury because they keep going down the tunnel, but they come right back. Eric Cernak, Victor Hedman, Steven Stamkos, things like that.
So here's my difference maker. I only got like 20 seconds. Lafreniere, as Jim talked about even last week and last couple weeks, Lafreniere, if they're going to win, they need him to be pulling through. He's really improving his game. I think it's wonderful. And for Tampa, they need to play their system and stick to their system no matter what happens.
I'm going to give a little shout out, a little rant. Hey, Peter Chiarelli, so much for trading Ryan Strome for Ryan Spooner, who's playing somewhere in Europe, and Ryan Strome is, lining up the first or second line, one of the two, I can't remember. Anyways, Jim, I'm sure Jim is very excited watching his Rangers play as far because it's been exciting hockey and good for Gerard Gallant.
Yeah, exactly. Well, buddy, it's been another great week. Glad to be back talking here live with you. Next week, guys, right now, Stanley Cup playoffs. That's where our focus is. We'll be getting to some other stuff. Just bear with us. We're not too far away, and we got only about another 4 or 5 weeks. We'll be wrapping up after the free agency. So we'll be taking a few, probably about 7-8 weeks off for the summer, just like all of you. Well, you try to hit the sunshine wherever you are, unless you're in the Sunshine State already. But hey, we only get sun so long in Canada, so we take advantage of every moment. Well, thanks, buddy.
Thank you. Thanks to all our fans, everyone for tuning in. Remember to like, share, subscribe on our YouTube, Twitter handle, on Evan's Twitter handle, Revenev. We love you guys. We appreciate all the comments, the feedback, the messages. Keep them coming. Ideas for the show. We love hearing from you. We love having the banter. We love telling Evan he's wrong. It's the best game ever. And we're looking forward. And make sure to put your predictions down for who you see in the Stanley Cup final.
Woo! All right.
Woo!
On behalf of two guys in Hockey Talk, in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. I should get up a piece of ice maybe next time.
And your head up. Keep your head up, too.